Hi, this is Chris from airwindows, and I'm finishing off my desk variations as far as new VSTs that are covering some of the work that I did when airwindows was starting to become really a serious thing. Desk plugins are the precursors to my console designs, console being the one that uses plugins in all of the channels, and then a complementary plugin on the bus and tries to get no change in sound, but a change in the way that the sounds blend together. Well, these were a little earlier than that. So what these did was just plain straight up tone coloring. And that's not so unusual because that's what a lot of plugins that are supposed to be console emulations do, is just plain straight up tone coloring. You know, the airwindows console and everything that arises from it, and there will be interesting things arising from it, are based on a more sophisticated concept, but just plain ordinary tone coloring has its place. Now, I've showed you in previous weeks Transdesk. This is TubeDesk. So what we've got here is bit shift gain doing 4 bits. That's 6 dB per bit, so it's 6, 12, 18, 24 bits, 24 dB, I'm sorry, into TubeDesk, into 24 dB back down again, so that it doesn't hurt our ears. And without TubeDesk, it doesn't do anything. I choose bit shift gain because it doesn't touch the tone of the sound in the slightest way. But if we turn TubeDesk on, squinch, its headroom is, shall we say, not 24 dB. So let's back it off a little bit. Let's go to 12 dB and see what we get there. The idea of TubeDesk is to make a sort of soft fluid saturation that's very gentle. It's much more forgiving. Think of this as like maybe an old, I don't know, a giant old Beatles tube console or something like that. The idea is it's supposed to be big and not easily saturated. And when it does saturate, it doesn't sound like, say, I'll scooch this guy out of the way. Let's bring channel in, or channel 4 specifically. Because the deal is, back in the day, the desk plugins, you got 3 of them for just buying desk itself, but they cost money. They cost $50. And what do you get out of that you can't have through channel 4? Because channel 4 was always free. Well, we'll set it to Neve, and we'll set the drive to 100% just because, like, if we're doing this tube saturation thing, people expect a fat, thick, saturated sound, and that's what the drive control does. What we get there at 12 dB a boost is this with the channel 4. And again, channel has always had a sort of distorting quality to it. And this is desk. Now, considering that these are both being driven pretty hard, they're both being driven way above 0, and they're both designed to just do sort of gentle tone coloring that's not flat out crazy scrunch and distort on vision. That's a nice contrast. Let's hear it again. Here's your channel. Obviously this one. Even if we back off the drive a little bit, still obviously distorted. And then TubeDesk, we got a whole other quality going on. throb to them, a feel. And then, if we're a little more gentle with it, if we just back it off so that we're only boosting 6 dB, it gets so that we can barely hear us doing anything at all. I'll just equalize that again so that we're at the same volume level. And then this is without it, raw digital sounds. And then you turn on TubeDesk, and there's a more full enveloping sound, and everything gets a little more friendly, a little more warm. Now there's something you should notice about this. This is not eating up all the high frequencies. You can hear plainly that this, without any of that, is very digital, very raw. But then if we turn on TubeDesk, we've got more of a analog-y saturated quality, but it's subtle, and it's not stepping all over the highs. This is not a dull box. If anything, it's kind of conditioning the highs in a euphonic way, making them sound more natural and realistic in some ways. And that's going to be because TubeDesk, like Desk and like TransDesk, is running a slew saturation effect that's more sophisticated than the simple slew clipping that's in channel 4. As a result, we've got this subtle smoothing and refining of everything. And the reason it's doing what it does to the bass, I'll show you again. There's the kick drum, and it feels a little bit more pillowy, a little bit more, maybe not solid in quite the same way, but this is because of the Power Sag plugin that I brought in a couple of weeks ago. It's got a preset, very subtle version of that is not wrecking the sound in any obvious way, but it's providing that shift of character. So what we're going to do, finally, to close off our exploration of TubeDesk, is switch off all of these bit shifts, switch off channel 4, and then we're going to listen to what it sounds like just having TubeDesk all by itself at the designed volume, which is getting on up to 1 or so, but not blowing past it 12 or 18 dB. And tell me what you think of the tonalities you get here. This is without it. And then this is with it. I lost a little gain. Oh, gain. There you are. Let's bring this up to where it was before. There's a fullness, and no mistake. if things are coming through a little bit too hot, I know that this is going on to YouTube, and this is a very Alien Kittens was sort of invented on a phone that was a sort of phone tracker plugin thingy pop. So it goes smack up to the iron bar. And what we can do is hit a little bit shift gain so that we're down 6 dB, and that gives us room to play with the boost. And let's see what we get as far as this music going through this plugin and what we can get with gain staging it. dB would be this. dB with this. Yeah, so one thing about a TubeDesk, clearly one thing about a TubeDesk is you can slam it real hard without anything bad happening. So let's play with the bit shift a little bit more, give ourselves 12 dB of headroom. Now it's starting to sound oversaturated. Here's where we get into obvious distort. That's a huge kick drum. Oh my god. Okay, let's stop playing with that for a second. We'll go back to our 6 dB pad. Back off. It's too clean. Now the kick drum's too big. Okay, that's kind of cool. So here we have TubeDesk being used to sort of fatten up the kick in such a way that things move together right. Without it, we got this. Not nearly as exciting. With it, we have this. TubeDesk is free because all of this stuff is supported by my Patreon. It is an audio unit and Mac and PC VST. And it is the final one of the early desk variations. You know, the most recent version of Desk is actually being reserved for a funding goal. But I thought I would bring some of these early versions out and some of these things like PowerSag out so that people could have fun with them. Again, this one has more headroom than you would imagine. And my idea is that people can take TubeDesk or TransDesk or Desk and just throw it into the middle of their mix in places. You could put it on individual channels. You could put it on the tube bus. You could put it in auxes and submixes, if you'd like, in order to, as you're bringing stuff together, and this counts even for submixes that are inside console, you can bring different qualities to the submixes and apply it more efficiently. And in fact, that's more similar to a actual analog desk, is having some of these things like the power supply sag and different kinds of distortion and limitation, not limiting, limitation, be part of the mixdown process. And like on an aux as it's feeding the main submix or whatever, it makes sense for that to be part of the circuitry between where the individual tracks come from and where everything gets piped into the overall tube bus. So it makes a lot of sense to be using the desk plugins as part of submixes, as part of things like that. So TubeDesk concludes the blast from the past section of the desk variations, desk, transdesk, and TubeDesk. And all of this is supported by Patreon, so I'm only going to keep doing more. Please support the Patreon. It could be like $1 a month. Well, no, actually, yeah, that literally is. It's $1 a month, which is $12 a year. It could be more. If that's too easy, then by all means throw more. There's people who are spending as much as $20 a month because they can easily afford it, and it's the same as $1 a month to them. But the more of that, the more plugins will end up coming out, and the more freedom I have to experiment and research and do things like the most recent version of console came about because I bought a analog console from Allen and Heath, and well, used, but I bought an Allen and Heath and threw lots of test tones through it and basically beat it up and tortured it and discovered how it worked and what happened when you ran crazy test tones all through it. And I'll continue to doing that, well, to the extent that I can. And it's all supported by the Patreon. But for now, I hope you enjoyed TubeDesk, and I'll talk to you later.